The moment Zainab stepped into the apartment, a cold shiver ran down her spine. The air felt unusually heavy, and a faint, sweet scent lingered, one that didn't belong to her. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong. Michael's laugh echoed through the living room, light and casual, yet it carried an edge Zainab had never noticed before. And then there was Olivia. She leaned against the counter with effortless grace, smiling in a way that made Zainab's stomach twist. For weeks, everything had seemed ordinary. Michael, 30, with his impeccable career and confident demeanor, had been the perfect husband, or so Zainab had believed. Zainab, 28, had trusted completely, cherishing the promises they made during wedding vows, the shared dreams and quiet evenings. But that night, the cracks of reality revealed themselves in the most insidious ways. Olivia, 26, bright, assertive, and with a magnetic charm, had somehow become a silent intruder in their home. Every shared glance, subtle touch, and casual laugh between Michael and Olivia was a dagger to Zainab's heart. If something like this has ever happened to you, comment below and subscribe to our channel. Zainab's heart thudded, but her mind sharpened. Panic threatened to take over, but she suppressed it. She would not act recklessly. She needed facts, evidence, and a plan. Her life, her dignity, and her future depended on patience and strategy. For days, Zainab observed quietly. She noted the smallest details: Michael's late-night phone habits, the way his eyes lingered on Olivia longer than necessary, the secretive messages he quickly deleted when she entered the room. She began recording his patterns mentally, turning his casual arrogance into a map of his duplicity. One evening, while Michael left the kitchen to fetch wine for Olivia, Zainab noticed his phone lying unlocked on the counter. Curiosity burned inside her, mingled with an undeniable surge of determination. She slid open his messages. There it was, conversations that left no room for doubt, screenshots of hotel bookings, receipts for dinners, and gifts that Michael had claimed were for work events or clients. Her hands shook, but not from fear. This was exhilaration. The game had just begun. Over the following weeks, Zainab meticulously catalogued every lie. Every interaction became a puzzle piece. Each innocent-sounding statement from Michael was now cross-referenced with receipts, text messages, and financial transactions. Olivia's presence was no longer just annoying. It was a tool in Zainab's intricate plan. Every whisper, every smile, every shared look was being stored in Zainab's memory bank. She would not just confront him, she would dismantle the illusion he had built around his life. Michael remained oblivious. He bragged about Olivia to his friends, shared jokes, and continued as though everything was normal. His arrogance blinded him. He assumed Zainab remained unaware, weak, and passive. And that assumption was his first mistake. Zainab began small. Misplaced items, casually overheard phone conversations, notes left in plain sight. Each tiny incident made Michael flinch, question his reality. It was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else, but Zainab observed the patterns of his discomfort closely. She noticed the small, almost human moments, how his hand would shake when he reached for the phone, how a laugh would falter at an unexpected glance, how a previously confident tone would crack. Every reaction was proof that her influence was already spreading. Meanwhile, Zainab began quietly building her independence, freelancing at night, earning enough to secure financial stability. Michael's assumption that she was weak, dependent, and powerless was now her advantage. She moved silently, invisibly, a shadow in the very home where betrayal festered. The first truly public exposure came at a casual dinner with a few friends. Zainab accidentally mentioned a trip Michael had taken with Olivia, one he had claimed was a business conference. His eyes darted nervously, his voice faltered slightly. Guests noticed nothing, but Zainab's mind logged every reaction. The threads were beginning to unravel. Zainab began escalating. Receipts appeared in unexpected places. Notes she had never written seemed to show up on his desk. Michael's paranoia grew. He began questioning his friends, checking receipts, even glancing at his own accounts with suspicion. Olivia noticed the tension too. Confidence that once radiated from her now wavered under the subtle pressure Zainab applied. Every detail was carefully calculated. Timing, placement, and subtlety ensured that Michael remained unaware of the full scope of Zainab's observation. And in that awareness, Zainab discovered a strange satisfaction. This was not just revenge. It was a reclamation of her own power. As the story unfolded, Michael's arrogance became his weakness. Every attempt to assert control met with subtle, almost imperceptible resistance. Zainab's strategy was quiet, precise, and devastating. She studied, waited, and acted when the moment was right. Every small victory added to her growing confidence and strategy for the larger confrontation that would inevitably come. At home, Michael continued his secretive life, believing he was untouchable. But Zainab had become a ghost in his carefully constructed reality. Olivia's presence, once a threat, now played into the pattern Zainab had created. Each interaction, each touch, each laugh became data, building the foundation for an inescapable exposure. The segment ends with Zainab preparing her next move, fully aware that the ultimate confrontation would be public, shocking, and decisive. Every minute detail was accounted for, every reaction anticipated, and every secret catalogued. The calm before the storm was hers to command. The days following Zainab's initial observations intensified. Every casual movement Michael made was now under her scrutiny. A simple glance at Olivia, a lingering touch, a whispered conversation, all became entries in her mental ledger. She had learned patience. She had learned precision. Michael's arrogance had given her the perfect stage to perform her quiet, calculated revenge. Zainab started to manipulate the environment subtly. A glass of wine misplaced here, a note left in a folder there. Olivia would find herself questioning if she had left it. Michael would glance nervously, and Zainab would simply observe, silent and calculating. The tension between the three had grown thick enough to cut through the apartment air. Michael, still oblivious to the full scope, began to notice minor inconsistencies. His hidden accounts, previously secure in secrecy, started to seem vulnerable. Zainab had discovered a bank account he maintained to fund outings and lavish gifts for Olivia. The moment of realization for Zainab came not with anger, but with a strange thrill. She now held tangible power, and with it, a blueprint for absolute exposure. In a calculated move, Zainab left subtle traces of her discoveries in plain sight. Receipts for expensive dinners appeared on the coffee table. Messages she had accessed on Michael's phone were referenced casually in conversation. Each small act forced him to question his own judgment. The tiny cracks in his composure widened imperceptibly, a prelude to the ultimate unraveling. One evening, Zainab overheard a conversation between Michael and Olivia that he believed was private. His voice was low, conspiratorial, full of the certainty that he was untouchable. Zainab's heart raced as she listened. Every plan he spoke of, every subtle lie he weaved, fed into her strategy. She didn't intervene yet. She merely recorded, remembered, and smiled quietly to herself. The game was accelerating, but she remained the calm eye of the storm. As weeks passed, Michael's behavior grew erratic. He became defensive, checking emails obsessively, questioning minor details, and increasingly scrutinizing Olivia's actions. Zainab's subtle manipulations had begun to erode his confidence. She introduced small mistakes that she pretended to notice: a misplaced earring, a misfiled document, a wrongly addressed note. Michael would find himself panicking, questioning, trying to maintain control while unraveling inside. Olivia, perceptive but unaware of Zainab's careful strategy, began to sense the tension. The once confident, assertive woman now hesitated, unsure of Zainab's quiet influence. Her easy smiles faltered when Zainab passed by, her words now measured. Every interaction became a dance of tension, and Zainab led gracefully, subtly, ensuring that every move built toward the inevitable climax. Zainab also strengthened her personal independence. Late nights spent freelancing had grown into a lucrative venture, quietly earning her financial freedom. Michael, assuming she remained dependent and fragile, remained blind to this shift. Her confidence, barely visible, added to the invisible weight pressing on him. The psychological leverage she gained from maintaining her outward calmness while secretly controlling the unfolding events was immense. The suspense reached its peak during a family gathering organized by Zainab under the guise of normalcy. Candles flickered, laughter floated across the room, and Michael, confident as ever, believed he had regained his charm and dominance. Olivia moved among the guests, her poise unwavering but increasingly strained under the subtle pressure that Zainab exuded. At dinner, Zainab began her slow, deliberate reveal. First, small truths: a receipt for an event Michael had denied, a mention of a conversation that didn't happen. He tried to dismiss them casually, maintaining composure, but every flinch, every hesitation was noted. Zainab had timed her reveals perfectly, ensuring that each piece of evidence was enough to unsettle without fully exposing him yet. The subtle shocks continued. She accidentally mentioned a luxurious weekend trip that Michael had claimed was work-related. His eyes darted nervously, a laugh faltering at the edges. The guests, oblivious, saw nothing, but the psychological impact on Michael was severe. Zainab's strategy was working. The empire of deceit he had constructed was showing visible cracks, and she observed with a composed, almost serene satisfaction. She then escalated her plan. Olivia began noticing inconsistencies as well. Receipts misplaced, subtle hints of observation, notes that seemingly appeared from nowhere. Michael's attempts to reassure himself or maintain control only made him more erratic. His paranoia grew, spiraling with every calculated act Zainab introduced into the environment. Zainab's patience and meticulous planning culminated in the most daring exposure yet. She intercepted a message from Olivia that detailed a secret meeting and casually referenced it at dinner. The timing, delivery, and subtlety were flawless. Michael's reaction was instantaneous. Eyes widened, face paled, and nervous energy rippled through him. Olivia, confused, questioned herself. Zainab merely observed, a silent conductor orchestrating every reaction perfectly. The tension was almost unbearable. Every small revelation added pressure, forcing Michael to stumble, exposing his dual life in microcosm to anyone paying close attention. Zainab's careful documentation, her subtle manipulations, and her strategic patience had transformed a quiet home into a stage for psychological dismantling. By the end of this segment, Michael's confidence had eroded considerably. He was questioning, defensive, and visibly anxious. Olivia was beginning to realize the invisible force influencing her interactions and choices. And Zainab? She remained calm, collected, and fully in control, her mind focused on the final act that would irrevocably reveal the truth and exact justice. The evening of reckoning arrived with a quiet intensity. Zainab had orchestrated every detail with meticulous care. The apartment was softly lit, music playing in the background, creating an atmosphere of normalcy that belied the storm that was about to unfold. Michael, 30, remained oblivious, confident in the illusion that he had regained control. Olivia, 26, radiated composure but felt the invisible tension that Zainab had woven through every corner of their lives. Zainab, 28, moved through the space with a calm precision. Every detail mattered: the placement of receipts, the timing of conversations, the subtle references to hidden truths. Her patience had paid off. The evidence of Michael's duplicity was now fully within her grasp, and the moment for exposure was at hand. The first subtle shock came as Zainab casually mentioned a business dinner Michael had claimed to attend alone. The receipt she had discovered weeks ago was laid bare on the coffee table. Michael's smile faltered, his eyes flickering toward the document, and Olivia sensed something had shifted. The room held a quiet tension, like the calm before a lightning strike. Zainab continued, each revelation carefully calibrated. Text messages, hotel receipts, and hidden expenditures were introduced as though by chance. Each clue chipped away at the carefully constructed facade Michael had maintained. His composure wavered, small gestures betraying his growing anxiety, fingers tapping, lips pressing tightly, a voice that occasionally cracked under the weight of hidden guilt. Olivia's confusion grew. She had sensed inconsistencies before, but seeing them presented in sequence, subtly but unmistakably, left her unsettled. Michael attempted to dismiss the evidence with humor, brushing off the receipts and messages as trivial, but the cracks in his confidence were visible to anyone paying attention. Zainab's movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. She knew the importance of timing. Each revelation was like a note in a symphony, building tension, drawing the audience, Michael, Olivia, and even unseen observers, into the crescendo she had planned. The psychological dismantling of Michael was now unmistakable. He questioned himself, his judgments, his decisions. Every defensive statement, every feigned confidence, only deepened the suspicion seeded by Zainab's strategic interventions. His once unshakable arrogance began to crumble under the weight of orchestrated evidence. Then came the most shocking revelation, a voice recording of Michael discussing Olivia with a close friend, plotting secret meetings, hidden gifts, and lies to both women. Zainab played it calmly, allowing the words to echo in the apartment. Michael's face turned pale, his body stiffened, a bead of sweat running down his temple. Olivia, horrified, looked between Zainab and Michael, realizing the magnitude of deceit. The public exposure was not over. Zainab presented screenshots, financial statements, and other evidence she had meticulously gathered. Each piece further dismantled the illusion Michael had maintained, leaving him visibly shaken. Friends and acquaintances, previously unaware, were now witnessing the full scope of his betrayal. The tension in the room reached a near tangible level. Michael attempted to speak, to deny, to rationalize, but Zainab anticipated every move. She had prepared responses, evidence, and counterpoints for every possible objection. His protestations fell flat, crumbling in the face of meticulously documented reality. The man who had believed himself untouchable now realized the full extent of Zainab's strategic intelligence and patience. Olivia, confronted with undeniable truths, struggled with feelings of betrayal and shock. Zainab maintained her composure, allowing Olivia to process, understand, and confront Michael. It was not Zainab's role to berate. Her power lay in controlled exposure, in allowing truth to speak louder than anger or accusation. The climax arrived with the revelation of Michael's hidden accounts, the funds redirected for clandestine activities. Zainab calmly disclosed that she had already taken steps to secure these funds for her own independence, a symbolic reclaiming of power. Michael's expression shifted from disbelief to despair, the weight of his misdeeds crashing down upon him. Finally, Zainab addressed both Michael and Olivia with quiet authority, summarizing the betrayals, the evidence, and the consequences. Her voice remained calm, measured, and precise, a stark contrast to the chaos Michael had sown. The ultimate act of revenge was complete: public exposure, financial accountability, and psychological victory, all executed with strategic patience and precision. The room settled into silence. Michael's world, built on lies, arrogance, and deceit, lay in ruins before everyone who mattered. Olivia, confronted with reality, began to understand the depth of manipulation and betrayal, while Zainab stood composed, a figure of calculated power and reclaimed dignity. And then, the final words to the audience: see where you are watching our story from, and if you enjoyed it, subscribe to our channel. Zainab walked away, leaving the room steeped in silence and shock, the echoes of deceit and justice lingering in every corner. Her revenge was complete, her dignity restored, and her independence fully realized. Michael's arrogance had been dismantled, every secret laid bare, and Zainab's patience and strategic foresight had triumphed.